I'm out hog hunting on a property, and the direction I'm looking is where there's some rooting damage in the field and where the hogs have been coming back and forth. But this video is going to be a lot of stuff for Taco Loves You, who is asking about the Stride ST6 and what all it could see, in particular coyotes at various distances. Now that's a little cottontail rabbit. That one little pixel or 2 pixel spot out there is a cottontail rabbit at 180 yards, just to give you some idea of what it'll do. For those of you that would like to just skip forward to the shooting sequences, here are the times, which will give you a little bit of a lead up beforehand so you can see what's going on, and then the shot sequence. Otherwise, Rick's has loaded me up with some gear, and this is what I'm going to be shooting for tonight. The first is going to be the Stride ST6 thermal monocular, which is often used as helmet mounted. Then I've got the Storm S3 weapon sight that I have on my rifle. And then I've also got the Pocket K2 there in the background, and I'm going to be trying to run all three of these at the same time, and it's not going to work out nearly as well as I had hoped, but it does work out at least on this first hunt. Carpet Canis. I had a coyote come in instead of hogs, and so this is going to be for Taco. The view that you see in the middle screen is from the Stride ST6, and the coyote is there at about 220 yards. Now the Stride ST6 does not include audio, so this is completely silent except for my jibber jabber. Now coming online with the Pocket K2, you hear the little buzzing in the background. The audio quality on the K2 isn't all that great, but it is fine for documentary work, and the buzzing does fade away and you get a nice clear signal then. Lastly, there on the bottom is the Storm S3 thermal weapon sight that I'm going to be shooting with. Try a little lip squeaking to bring in the coyote, and the coyote's just not having it, and it starts to move away. Now the wind is blowing in the direction towards the coyote, but I've got trees behind me sort of acting as a blockade. I don't know that a lot of my scent is getting to the coyote, but you can see my truck and everything else. He just doesn't seem too sure about me. Don't quite get steadied up enough, and so I'm not going to take the shot, and the coyote wanders behind the trees. I'm starting to think that this is probably a blown hunt. And watch off to the right hand side of the screen, the coyote comes back out, and it's followed by a second one. Maybe not a wasted hunt. I get back on the rifle scope, get lined up on the second coyote, and she moves off, and end up dropping her at 240 yards. This next sequence is just me walking out to retrieve the coyote as I take a roundabout way across the field, losing sight of the coyote as I get down into the low area, and then wandering off to the right before finally spotting it again, heading off back to the left and recovering the coyote, getting pictures, etc. Earlier I had focused the Stride ST6 at 200 yards when I was looking at the rabbit at 180 yards, so some of the things are coming in and out of focus during the course of the retrieval. Now tonight I'm going to be hunting with the TX15 Multipurpose Carbine Enhanced from Lone Star Armory, shooting 6.5 Grendel. I just don't have enough good things to say about Lone Star Armory and their rifles. This is quality kit. And I'm also going to be shooting some Maker TRX 95 grain bullets loaded by Druid Hill Armory in the Starline Brass. After returning to the truck, I continued to wait for hogs when another coyote popped out. They're at 130 yards. I don't have time to get the other optics turned on. The first shot was a quarter toward shot, entering at the rear of the shoulder and exiting out of the abdomen. The second shot missed, and the third shot puts it down for good.
Brass Catcher by Tactical Brass Recovery.
No hogs showed up, but I came away with a male coyote and a female coyote, and the female coyote was pregnant with 7 on board. Now with hogs, we like to look at fetal counts to find out what sort of impact we're having on the future population on hogs. We can do that with coyotes as well, but coyotes are also unique in that their litter sizes are reflective or inversely reflective of the population structure. The average litter size is about 4 to 7 pups. If you get a lot more than that, then the population is probably going to be quite low. If you get a lot less than that, then the population is probably going to be higher. So this actually tells you something about the population if you actually had a sample large enough. A sample of 1 isn't going to tell you this, but if we see this with multiple times, then we can probably ascertain that with average litter sizes, the pressure being put on these coyotes isn't damaging the population sufficiently enough to elicit a response of changing their litter sizes. And Taco loves you. This next 2.5 minutes is for you. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner, the clock is running. I'm getting a video with the Stride ST6. I'm on native magnification. I've actually got a coyote down in the lower left-hand corner. It just looks like a few pixels there. And just so you know, I'm estimating distances based upon landmarks in the field and then comparing it with a map and getting my distances in that manner. And so this coyote's probably at about 400 to 450 yards. The thermal conditions at this point are still pretty darn good as we see the coyote moving through the field, and I've sped up the video in order to get the coyote to move through the field faster as it's increasing the distance. And then I remember that I can zoom in the scope. Isn't that interesting? So as we're waiting for the coyote to get to its final destination, we see in the field that there are bedded cattle, both cattle and calves. We also have a couple skunks. We have a skunk that is here that is going to be closer than the original 450 yard estimate for the coyote, and one that is further away. That's pretty cool. That's a long distance to be seeing skunks. Now finally the coyote has reached its final destination for now, and it's bedded down there at about 645 yards on the side of the hill. Changing views to the south, I've got a coyote there in the distance on the neighbor's property. The coyote's at about 810 yards, and I'm basing that on the fact that the fence is approximately 800 yards away from me, and it appears to be just on the other side of the fence. Now, how am I getting these animal identifications when I can't see things that well with the Stride ST6? Well, I'm using an IR Patrol from Trigicon that has 640 resolution and 4.5 native magnification, so it's really zooming in for me. Otherwise, at longer distances such as this, when we see coyotes, they're going to be identified or recognized based upon their behavior and general overall shape more so than their actual anatomical shape. And the ravine is my reference point for estimating the distance for the coyote. As I zoom in on the coyote, and off to the left, you'll see some movement, and you're going to see some movement through the trees a little bit. And then popping out the other side is another critter, and I don't know what this is. Do y'all have any idea what that looks like? I want to call it a rabbit, I want to call it a skunk, but I really can't tell, and the movement doesn't seem right. Maybe it's a raccoon. What do y'all think? Put your guesses in the comments below. Whatever it is, coyote doesn't seem interested. At this point, I'm thinking about stalking after the coyote, but in the past, stalks have not gone well for me in going after coyotes, simply because the coyotes typically just trot away long before I ever get a chance to get a shot. Now this coyote's going to continue to the field to the left, and that's the view that you see from here, and there's the coyote in the distance at about 450 yards. Thermal conditions are still good at this point, and we are in a field where I have a slightly elevated position, maybe about 10 or 15 feet higher up than what the coyote is in the distance. This is a well-grazed pasture, so we have full view of the coyote. He's not being hidden by a lot of foliage at this point. Now in the background, way in the distance, we've got some cattle that are bedded in the coastal Bermuda, and they are partially hidden, and so we don't see a lot of those cattle, and they look a lot smaller than they actually are because their thermal signature is being hidden by the foliage there in the distance. Now I'm just continuing to watch this coyote as it's slowly making its way towards me. It is crossing the tank dam there at 395 yards. I could try calling the coyote to hurry it along to come in my direction, but as long as it's coming in my direction, I'm just going to let it keep coming on its own and take the shot when the coyote is in range. My thoughts on this are that if I try calling the coyote, if this coyote's been called before, it's going to spook and it's going to take off running. Right now it doesn't seem to know or care that I'm here, and it's just coming in this direction. And so I might as well just let it come. I sort of have to chuckle watching this video. At the time that this was happening, as the coyote was moving closer and closer, my anticipation of it getting closer was amping up with every step that it took. But now in watching the video, this is just kind of boring. But at the time, this is quite exciting. The coyote's gotten close enough that I have switched to the Storm S3 thermal weapon sight. Although I am moving back and forth between the two optics to make sure that everything's staying in frame, so I'm checking the ST6 and the coyote's in frame, but then I move back to the Storm S3 and the coyote's moved off to the left, so I need to reposition. There we are. Here you can tell between the movement of the images that I'm on the S3 thermal weapon sight and I am not on the ST6 monocular. The ST6 is a still image and the S3 is the image that's showing a little bit of the movement as I'm moving the scope around. Here I'm getting ready to take my shot. The Coyote's at about 115 to 145 yards. It's going to be a front of the chest shot. It's actually going to go all the way through the Coyote, and it takes off running off screen on the ST6. And I track over with the Storm S3. Shot through the shoulder. The Coyote spins around a couple times, and it is done. And the last Coyote of the night was a male Coyote. After the last 6 months of getting to play with Rick's products and get to try out nearly their entire line of stuff, I have a few comments about things I'd like to say about the products. I've been really impressed. I started off with the Tour T20 digital night vision scope. This is a capable night vision scope. With the gear that's included, getting shots at 250 to 300 yards is certainly possible on flat level ground, although closer shots would be better. With a better illuminator, distances are going to increase. The Pocket K2 is a very cost-effective spotting thermal. It's not the best as an identification thermal. It's only got 256 resolution, but for what it is, at the price point that it is, this is actually a nice little capable optic. The focus of tonight's hunt was the Stride ST6 for Taco Loves You. This is a neat little thermal. It's meant to be helmet mounted, but you can also carry it on a lanyard. It's 640 resolution. It does record video, but does not record audio. It's lightweight and runs on an 18650 battery with a long runtime. I like this optic. The Storm series has the S2 and S3. The S2 is 256 resolution, and I wasn't terribly impressed with it because of the low level of resolution, but it's only $1,100. The S3 comes in at $1,800, and I don't have enough good things to say about this. While it is only 384 resolution, it has a very nice image. It's 3.5 native magnification. It's small, it's lightweight, it only comes in at $1,800. This is an outstanding scope that'll handle most hunters' hunting needs out to 250, 300 yards with little difficulty. Beyond that, the user interface of the layout of the buttons and the menu system is very logical. Everything makes sense, and it's very easy to operate. I really don't have anything bad to say about this scope. Moving on to Rick's top-of-the-line Leap series, there's the L3 in 384 resolution and L6 in 640 resolution. And to be quite honest with you, I haven't used the L3 nearly as much as the L6, and I've used neither one of these nearly as much as I've used the Storm S3. However, for the money, I would say the Storm S3 is a better budget-minded scope if you're just looking for an optic for hunting purposes. Now, if you are on a budget and want to make longer distance shots, then the L3 is the way to go because you have the benefit of both the optical zoom and the digital zoom both to really extend the range of the scope. However, I would spend the extra money and go ahead and get the L6, which I have done. Both of these Leap scopes can be outfitted with the laser rangefinder that is optional, and in my experience, the laser rangefinder works very well. So at this point, I say goodbye to Rick's. It's been fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what new optics you have coming out in the future. Carpe sus, my friends.